And here's the thing. You want to fuck with somebody who has a gun, expect to get shot. I mean, it's as simple as that. You're not supposed to shoot into a moving vehicle for a couple of reasons. One is you could hit somebody else. You hit a car, it ricochets off. Number two, what about your partners that are there? Did you see the proximity to the partners? I mean, you got one guy on the side and you're shooting at the front. I mean, how dangerous is that? If you're the lawyer for the officer, certainly you try to paint her as an obstructionist, as somebody that's impeding this ICE operation, as somebody that wants to get in the way, and it was told to get out of the way and told to get out of her vehicle.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer, coming to you with my gold Irish cufflinks on. It's a somber day today because we're talking about Miss Good, who lost her life in an ICE attack. I'm just going to call it attack because she was attacked. But we're going to show some clips. We're going to dissect it a little bit, and we're going to talk about use of force. And there's a lot to talk about. This was an operation by ICE, and there's this whole ICE has put 2,000 troops, basically. I'm going to call them troops because that's how they're acting. They're acting like troops. They've got Kevlar on, they've got camo on, they're masked up, they're loaded up, ready to rock and roll, and so we're going to talk about what that means as well. So, but before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, this is brought to you by AskALawyer.com. AskALawyer.com is a very effective way. For $49, you can get the advice of a living, breathing lawyer. AskALawyer.com. For example, if you have an issue with ICE, and you want to find out what should I do as I'm hiding in my basement with my favorite YouTuber's grandma. My grandma loves Mexicans, and I love Mexicans. So, but if they're undocumented and they're sitting in my basement, what do you do? Well, you call AskALawyer.com, and they might not be able to fix your immediate problem, but they can get you in the right direction to give you some guidance on where to go for $49. To have that at your ready is very valuable. And if you're doing your own legal research, they have an AI component that's trained on all the 50 states. So go to AskALawyer.com. Same people that brought you eForm and eSign, which I use on a regular basis. Okay, here we are in the tundra of Minnesota, and another pivotal case coming. We had George Floyd. That was a big, huge deal here. We had Derek Chauvin. That whole fiasco. We had Philando Castillo here in town. We had a couple other ones, and now we have. Well, yeah, we have those Somali fraud cases. Now we have Renee Nicole Good, who was gunned down in the streets of Minneapolis. Now, let's just talk about immigration for a second. I deal with people who are undocumented almost every day. Almost every day. I have, and when it comes to immigration, I deal with immigration lawyers all the time, because what I do as a criminal lawyer has an impact on somebody's immigration status, right? So if somebody has a case and I lose the case, well, they can be deported because of that case. But if I win the case, well, all of a sudden they can't use any facts surrounding that case, and they're in a much better position. Case in point. Last September, I had a case in Anoka County. We show up for the day of trial. My client is there, and ICE shows up and swoops him up, puts him in ICE custody, doesn't allow him to go to his trial. And it was a sex case, criminal sexual conduct case. He was working at Denny's as a cook, and this gal who did not want to be there, she was 15 and didn't want to have a job, family friend of my client, decides, what better way to not work for Denny's anymore but if I tell them that he sexually assaulted me. Police didn't get the video. And anyway, long story short, that really impacted my client because he got picked up by ICE. I pulled some strings with a friend of mine and got him out of ICE custody, back into Anoka jail, at the Anoka County Jail, and we went to trial on his case. And guess what? The jury came back in less than an hour and acquitted my client. It was an absolute bullshit allegation. It should never have been tried to begin with, to be quite frank with you. And so now he's able to stay here and have a much better, that's why I love what I do, because we affect somebody's life, right? But when you have people who are undocumented, we have, the right to enforce our borders and to, deport people who aren't here legally. I get that. But do we want, do we want 2,000 troops to just come into our communities and rouse people who are at work and at school and whatever? And I'm not advocating, for sanctuary cities by any means. I don't like troops on my fucking streets. Trump has talked about putting the National Guard into certain cities and having the military take control of law enforcement. He doesn't do that in Houston. He doesn't do that in Dallas. He doesn't do that in Miami. He doesn't do that in Jacksonville, Florida, where there's like murders like you wouldn't believe between gang members. He does it in blue states. Okay, enough of the politics of this whole thing. So the troops are here. And here's the thing. On this morning, when Miss Good was shot, which was yesterday, I was on my way from one courthouse to my office. And as I'm traveling down the road, these guys that were part of this operation passed me up. And because I see the vehicles that they passed me on the highway. So I saw them going to this situation. First of all, I don't like protesters at all. I'm just kidding. They're pains in the asses. And during the Floyd trial, we had the courthouse all fenced off, and they were across the street. No, we won't go. No, won't. Pick, suck my dick, whatever they say. But I get they have the right to do it. And it's irritating as it might seem. And what's the penalty for protesting or even fleeing? When it's not a death penalty, right? So I see these guys speed past me. I pull over because, whenever you have an emergency vehicle going after, on the road, you have to pull over. Anyway, so I see these guys and I'm like, something's going on. I almost followed them, to be honest with you, because I was a gawker, like anybody else. But I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't actually, in retrospect. And let me tell you just something about immigrants. People coming into this country. The percentage of immigrants who are involved in criminal activity as opposed to the number of immigrants who are law-abiding and, undocumented, but law-abiding otherwise, and, working to make something for their family is at or below the percentage of our normal citizen population. You get what I'm saying? So, and that is a documented fact. Regardless, if you're here illegally, you don't have the right to stay here. And a lot of people do, and they hide in the shadows, and they work and they work and they work. I don't have any problem with people leaving their home, and even if they're not unsafe, even if it's just poverty. Do anything for your family. I would do it too. I just would. We can take the hard right approach and that there's nothing illegal about kicking people out of the country that don't have the right to be here to begin with. Fair enough. I get that. Why isn't that applied to the businesses as well? We've got big factories and all over this country that are employing all kinds of illegal immigrants. Don't we? Or undocumented immigrants. They're all over the place. We do. How come we don't have raids on businesses? How come we don't have, the federal government shutting down businesses that are employing people who, that they're targeting? Really. Let's take a look at. So let's just start with a news clip. You know, this has been all over the news. You guys have seen it on the news.
We've just learned the woman who was killed was 37-year-old Renee Good.
A witness caught one angle of what happened on video. A warning, though, it could be disturbing for some viewers.
Now, I don't know what she was doing there. You know, ICE is doing whatever they're doing, and people are protesting. And here's the thing. You want to fuck with somebody who has a gun, expect to get shot. I mean, it's as simple as that. But there is also a force continuum. You know what the force continuum is? The force continuum is you start with a certain level of force, you know, like verbal commands, and then you escalate until compliance. And you don't use lethal force is on the very, very end of the force continuum. And you're not supposed to use lethal force unless you are facing imminent death or substantial bodily harm.
What the f?
You hear 3 shots fired, a crash, and then you see witnesses running to help.
Now we're gonna go back to this video in a minute, but listen to more of this coverage.
The woman who was shot died. Federal authorities say that driver was trying to run over an ICE agent. Not long after, tensions quickly boiled over at the scene. Agents sprayed some protesters with a chemical irritant, trying to get the crowd under control.
I don't like seeing people in fatigues, in Kevlar, in, you know, army helmets and, you know, boots on our soil, in our neighborhoods. I just don't like seeing it.
This all played out in South Minneapolis near 34th and Portland, where a large crowd is still gathering this evening.
About a mile from my house.
We continue our live team coverage of this breaking news now. I believe we're going to begin with Connor White, who's been at the scene all day. Connor?
Good evening. The number of people...
Connor just got his paper route and is doing this on the side.
People here has really ebbed and flowed.
Look how young this guy looks. Maybe I'm just getting older. Everybody looks so young now to me. I don't know, but he looks like he's about 14.
Throughout the 9 hours since that shooting, we've seen here as this vigil gets underway that more people are flooding in. It's really shoulder to shoulder, standing room only, so to speak, here just off 34th and Portland. A lot of people here to express their anger, but also to honor 37-year-old Renee Good, the American citizen who ICE shot and killed earlier this morning in an incident that bystanders say simply did not need to happen. Now, this was recorded by one of those bystanders. We showed you some of this video off the top. In it, you can hear several shots after the red Honda backs up and begins moving forward here on Portland. The car crashes and a woman gets out. The driver is still in the driver's seat for some time, with blood covering the interior of the car. That woman appears to be Renee Good, who is brought outside of the car eventually and receives medical attention from law enforcement, though witnesses tell us ICE appeared to stop a man who was claiming to be a doctor who wanted to help.
A man on the street next to me said, "I'm a doctor, I'm a physician, allow me to get closer to provide emergency medical aid." The ICE agent said, "No, back up, get on the sidewalk, stay on the sidewalk."
The failure to render aid is just astounding here. Show me your credentials real quick. I mean, you got a medical license in your wallet.
While that was happening, another guy was shouting, "No pulse, no pulse." And maybe 2 minutes later, emergency medical services showed up with an ambulance. And I saw them carry the body out of the vehicle and bring her halfway down the block and around the corner, where somebody administered emergency CPR.
In all fairness, it's very difficult to do what you need to do when you are surrounded by people like this.
Now, as you can hear, there is still a large crowd. It is a passionate crowd listening to some speakers following along in chants. We'll go to our Adam Duxter soon, who will have a bit more information on what's happening right now. On the law enforcement side of things, we know there is a joint investigation into the shooting underway between the FBI, that's the federal level, and the BCA here with the state of Minnesota. Connor White, WCCO News.
The BCA is the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. It's not a local law enforcement agency. It's a statewide investigative agency that's used primarily by the Attorney General's office and in certain crimes, like task force crimes, and they have a lab and that kind of thing. So let's take a look at the video. I'm going to slow it down to a quarter of its speed. Now, you've got what I think is a nice car right there. And then you have the woman is Renee Good in her vehicle right there. And you can see her brakes are on. It looks like she was actually attempting to move just as this Ford Explorer is going in front of her. And it looks like she's got her arm out of the of her driver's side window. And if you keep in mind, a vehicle just passed, so she's not trying to ram anybody, and she's a lot, telling, like, kind of waving people through. And you see this black SUV here? That's the kind of SUV that I saw passing me on the highway, and you saw that Suburban there. She's just sitting there, not doing anything. She's no threat to anybody at this point, right? Now they're walking towards her, so she's going to try to move. So she's going to back up, and this officer attempts to grab her door. So I'll turn the volume down. Let's turn the volume off on that. All right. Now he's at the door and telling her, he doesn't tell her, get out of the car. Get the fuck out of the car. And one of the things about these ICE agents, there's an influx of these guys, right? And their training has been cut in half, is what I understand. I've always said cops need a lot more training. They need a lot more schooling. So he's got his hand inside her vehicle. Now he's on the side, and you got another agent on this side, and you got one right in front of her. If you can see the guy right there, that's the first shot. She's not going after him. You can see her wheels are turned to the right. You can see they're turned to the right. She's not trying to run anybody over. And you're not supposed to put yourself in front of a fucking vehicle. I mean, that's just safety. First shot. You see the first shot go there. Now look at this. This is at 16 seconds into the video. The officer involved here is at the side of the vehicle. He's not in front of her. His hand is pointed directly inside the driver's side window. So we only have one bullet hole in the windshield. It was reported that there was another bullet hole in one of the side mirrors. There's no other bullet holes. And we know, I think we can safely say that one of the shots came directly from the driver's side at point blank range. Within 18 seconds, she's dead. Why wouldn't he just let her go? Don't stand in front of the vehicle. If somebody's not complying, you got her license plate number. You can go to her house and arrest her for failure to obey a lawful order or fleeing in a motor vehicle. I mean, you could do that. What would be the crime here? I mean, if you analyze this in the same context as, say, the George Floyd case, you have to look at use of force and the continuum and what officers are allowed and not allowed to do. It's the same standard for Derek Chauvin as it is for this guy. First of all, they're taught not to shoot into a fucking vehicle. You're not supposed to shoot into a moving vehicle for a couple of reasons. One is you could hit somebody else. You hit a car, it ricochets off. Number two, what about your partners that are there? Did you see the proximity to the partners? I mean, you got one guy on the side and you're shooting at the front. I mean, how dangerous is that? You're only supposed to do it if you're in fear of substantial bodily harm or death. Very traumatic for this community to have these ICE agents come in. So let's take another angle at it. This is from... So her foot must have been stuck on the accelerator when she crashed. So what they did is they had to turn the vehicle off. That's why you heard that sound over and over again. So sad. Let's hear what one of the witnesses has to say. There's no question that in that angle that you just saw that she's trying to get away and she's not really intending to mow anybody down.
They clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her, but she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there. Yeah.
So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
That was her goal.
Whether it was or not, I mean, she was attempting to leave. So it's been bantered about, would it make a difference if she's a willful, obstructionist, or if she's just dropping off a kid, and I think it does to a certain degree. However, you still don't shoot into a moving vehicle unless you're, looking at substantial bodily harm or death. And she clearly is turning away and waving cars through. There was a car that just got through, so she wasn't trying to impede that person. If you're the lawyer for the officer, certainly you try to paint her as an obstructionist, as somebody that's impeding this ICE operation, as somebody that wants to get in the way and it was told to get out of the way and told to get out of her vehicle. And the uncertainty of what's going on is something that can't be lost. However, I still come to the conclusion that he could have easily just stepped out of the way. And, it was, I think Trump tweeted that he was almost killed which is just ridiculous. I think they said he went to the hospital and was released. For what? I didn't see any injuries at all. So let's hear what our fair mayor has to say.
The mayor did not hold back when speaking about the shooting.
He had this strong message for ICE.
And I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis.
Okay, if I want to lower the rhetoric, would I use those words? And I love to swear, right? I love to swear. Come on. But he's frustrated and he wants to sound tough. But what are you going to do? I mean, there's nothing you can do. If ICE wants to be here, they're going to be here, right? And it's up to the citizenry, to do whatever they're going to do. But I don't advocate anybody going against ICE. Fight it out in court.
Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
WCCO's Reg Chapman was at that press conference for us, and he joins us now with more reaction from the mayor and the police chief. Reg.
Our camera saw Minneapolis City Councilor Jason Chauvin with a bullhorn urging the crowd to protest peacefully. But the mayor and the police chief are urging the same thing, to try and keep the calm while the investigation plays out.
We've dreaded this moment since the early stages of this ICE presence in Minneapolis. Not only is this a concern that we've had internally, we've been talking about it.
We ask that the community continue to call for peace. We understand people are going to be upset about what happened, and people are going to want to exercise their First Amendment rights.
There's just no reason for you to get in the way of ICE. And I'm saying that respectfully because I get how frustrated the people are. The people are very frustrated. You know, I mean, we don't need to be a sanctuary city. At the same time, we don't need to have over enforcement. And I think that's what we have here. So, you know, the thing about it is we're so aptly represented with leaders, you know, whether Democrat or Republican, you know, and our leader in Homeland Security, so fashionably coiffed with her, you know, her suede hat and her brown shirts. There are brown shirts. Let's hear what our dear leader has to say.
You asked about a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism.
Act of domestic terrorism? Did she blow something up? Did she try to kill anybody? Did she hurt anybody? She didn't try to run anybody down.
What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to...
Stuck in the snow? There was no fucking snow. There was no snow on the ground. I mean, yeah, we have snow on the ground, but it's been in the 30s. So they didn't get stuck in the snow. It didn't happen.
Attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them, and those...
She didn't attack them. I mean, what is she watching that we're not watching?
Those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer...
Is this AI? I mean, this looks like it's AI.
Of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him.
This is not what she should say. There's another dude who's like, what's the other guy's name? This is not how you do it, folks. This is not what a leader says at a time like this.
And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day. These vehicle rammings are domestic acts.
There was no vehicle ramming here whatsoever.
Domestic acts of terrorism. We're working with the Department of Justice to prosecute them as such. We will continue to protect our ICE officers.
Unbelievable. I can't believe she's got a job, quite honestly. Look at that fucking hat. I mean, she's cute and everything. She's kind of pretty, but I think she's got a little too much Botox. So Tom Homan, the border czar, sat down with Anderson Cooper. This is how you talk about this stuff. Not the way Kristi, oh, it's an act of domestic terrorism. It is, she tried to kill him, and the officer was acting in self-defense. And, you know, so you're not holding anybody accountable. You're not being a measured response. Let's hear what Tom Homan has to say.
We had an incident in Minneapolis. According to the Department of Homeland Security, a woman attempted to weaponize her vehicle, that's a quote, ram an agent, run over an agent. The department's called it an act of domestic terrorism. Open fire, that woman is dead this evening. Many Americans are watching videos of this incident online, and they're seeing something different than what the department is describing. I'd like to show you one of those videos so you can talk directly to Americans tonight about what they're seeing.
And sadly, I was right. There has been bloodshed. There's been attacks on ICE officers, there have been people killed, even our detainees were killed here in Dallas.
Yeah.
The investigation is ongoing. There's a lot of video, a lot of evidence hasn't been seen yet. I'm not a forensics expert, and neither are the people and members of Congress commenting on this. The auditors hold their judgment. Take a deep breath, hold their judgment, because I think the comments about murder is going to incite what? More violence, more threats, and hopefully not more bloodshed.
And I want to get into that. I want to get into the increase in violence and threats against ICE officers, but I also want to linger for a moment on this incident because it's a really important one. I think the city of Minneapolis is on edge. I think the country is on edge.
Suffice to say, I'm not going to play this whole thing. You guys have probably already seen this anyway. But Homan says, look, there's an ongoing investigation. Let's wait till everything comes out. Instead of, you know, being Mr. Partisan like Kristi Noem is and going off like this. At the end of the day, a woman lost her life. And why did she lose her life? She lost her life standing up for what she believed in, and going against ICE. We have to have more measure in our responses. We just do. And I get that ICE has a tough job. Anybody in law enforcement has a tough job, period, plain and simple. The use of force is something that is entrusted to a few people, and they have to have the training necessary. I could honestly see, Trump's administration isn't going to prosecute him for anything, for sure. But Keith Ellison, our attorney general here in Minnesota, who was a former congressman and a former defense lawyer, I actually knew him when he was a practicing lawyer. We went up against each other in cases. But he is not a... I would bet that there is going to be a situation where they might put this in front of a grand jury. And that's where it belongs, because you have the grand jury decide whether there was probable cause to charge somebody. That should happen here, and I bet it will. So in my closing thoughts, my heart goes out to this Renee Good's family. They lost a sister, a mother, a daughter, and sounds like she was a good woman by all accounts, unarmed, and the rhetoric that you hear from the White House and from Kristi Noem is just not true. She didn't do what she was accused of doing. She didn't run somebody down. She waved one guy through, and then she was trying to leave. Or actually, she delayed in leaving, and they told her to get out of the car. And then she tried to leave. So, but they had her license plate number. They could have just let her go. And if somebody does that, I am totally against police chases. At this day and age, there's no reason for it. You got a description of the person driving. You got their license plate number. You can just post up at their house when they're, and issue a warrant. But cops have a tough job, period, plain and simple. And now the local police, what do they do with this ICE presence? I mean, that's complicated. How do you balance what ICE is trying to do and what the role of the Minneapolis police is here? I don't have an answer for you on that, because that's above my pay grade. So we'll just keep following up on this stuff as it happens, and hopefully the city doesn't burn like it did during the George Floyd days. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, go to Facebook. Let's build that platform, and we'll see you next time on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please.